My mom found out that my 3-year-old brother, Frankie, had kidney cancer. He died when I was a baby, and my mother had a massive nervous breakdown and never recovered.
Both my parents died of cancer. My mother of ovarian cancer when I was 4. My father when he was 73, lung cancer.
Why don't you start the damn chemotherapy? Why don't you listen to your doctor? And I'm like, because once they start with pancreatic cancer, it's kind of like they know when you're gonna die. They took the top of my head off. They sucked the tumors out to put the top of my head on. I went through all their treatment and they sent me home to die. 2017, the same thing happens. They take the top of my head off, they suck the tumors out, they put the top of my head back on. He goes, it was a miserable existence. 2019, it comes back again. So I start planning my funeral. He had a book of his funeral plans.
So I guess I'll just ask you, why are we doing this?
So about 2 months ago, I was having dinner at Tarbell's with this guy, and he said, I'm gonna challenge you, you son of a bitch. You're gonna get up on my stage, and you're gonna announce that you're cancer-free. You got 2 months, go. Who does that? Who does that?
So let's kind of go. I do have some questions because this is such an important conversation, I think, for everyone, I hope. So I wanted to make sure I say it right, and then we can also talk about whatever. So you've applied your industrial engineering background and innovative thinking in your business ventures. How did this mindset help you navigate your cancer diagnosis and treatment?
Yeah, so as it relates to, let's just back up for a second if we can go right to the beginning. So I was in Italy with my family, it was July, and I started turning yellow. I didn't know what was going on. I came back to the States. I was having dinner with Tim Larkin in Vegas, and he goes, dude, your eyes are yellow. What's going on? This was the beginning of August, and I just was going about my life. August 13th, I went to a clinic in Dallas where I live with my family, and as soon as I walked into the clinic, the guy goes, you need to go to the emergency room right now. So I went to a hospital emergency room. I'm sure many of you have had that experience. I never had it in my entire life. And was completely yellow and delirious. My bilirubin, for those that know what it means, had skyrocketed because a tumor closed off my liver biliary tube from emptying. The tumor was at the head of the pancreas. So I waited for 7.5 hours in excruciating pain, bright yellow. And while I was waiting, I grabbed one of the surgeons in the emergency room. I said, can you tell me what the hell's wrong with me? He goes, sir, wait your turn. You have pancreatic cancer. And I proceeded to wait like 4 more hours after that. So that's where this started. But 3 days later, when they did the surgery to put a stent to open up the biliary tube, the next morning I wake up at 9 a.m. It's a Friday morning. It's August 18th. And there was 4 doctors around me. There was this nice Indian woman who had a chemo port in her hand, and there was a surgeon, and there was a GI surgeon, and there was another chemo doctor. And they said, we got to bring you in immediately. We got to put a chemo port in. We got to start chemo immediately. And they're all talking at the same time. And it's 9 a.m. I'm delirious from the surgery. And I said, can I get the hell out of here? And they're like, no, you can't leave. I said, no, I got to get out of here. And my friend's with me, he's on my left, and he goes, Rick, just listen to your doctor, get the damn chemo port, whatever. And then one of the doctors said something really interesting. He said, 2 and 2. I said, what's 2 and 2? He said, you have inoperable pancreatic cancer, you have a 2% chance of living 2 years. And imagine you hearing that, right? Mm-hmm. So my wife's there, she's crying. Anyway, long story short, I said, no, I got to get the hell out of here. That was my initial instinct, was to get out of hospital prison, which took 6 hours. And then the first call I made, ironically, I think he's in this room. Is Vern Harnish in the room? There he is. I called him up and I said, Vern, I got pancreatic cancer, what do I do? He goes, immediately go to the nearest clinic you could find. They get 100 grams of vitamin C. So I traveled around Dallas and I found a place, and they're like, our limit is 10 grams of vitamin C for the first time. I said, I got pancreatic cancer, I need 100. And she goes, looks over her shoulder. She goes, okay. And I did 100 grams of vitamin C for every day for I don't even know how long. And then Vern got me to the Reardon Clinic in Wichita, Kansas, and that started the journey. But real interesting beginning. That's how it started. So using industrial engineering, I think what might help people is, can I just show a couple of pictures?
Yeah. Show slides.
So I just have 4 slides. So when I was 13, let me just go back even further. I have a saying that the size of your unhealthy drive in life is inversely proportional to the depth of your trauma as a child. And I had an incredibly traumatic childhood. And I'm incredibly driven, so when I read some of the things I've been doing to combat the cancer, it'll translate. But just to tell you a little bit about my past and get to this photo here. When I was conceived, I was the 7th of 10 kids that my mom had. My mom found out that my 3-year-old brother, Frankie, had kidney cancer. So she was going back and forth to cancer treatment. He died when I was a baby, and my mother had a massive nervous breakdown and never recovered. Then when I was 11, my dad announces to the family that he had incurable cancer, was given 6 weeks to live. He ended up living till I was 13. So when my dad died, my mother had her second nervous breakdown, and I lost both my parents when I was 13. But all that trauma as a kid, because I had all the initials, I don't know if they're called ADHD and all that as a kid, but I had a brutal childhood because my mother's like, why are you such a pain in the ass? Like, why did God take Frankie and not you? And shit like that as a kid, I heard. So I had to fight for my life as a little kid. Yeah. So now I'm showing you the picture up here because when my dad told the family, gathered all the kids around the table when I was 11, as I said, and said, hey, I've got incurable terminal cancer. I had to have that same conversation with my kids. This picture's 2 years old. So my kids are now 9, 11, 13, and 15. And my 13-year-old said, Dad, I'm behind you 100% for this fight. And I said, just give me till the end of the year. I didn't realize I was saying, give me till the Joe Polish event to beat this thing. So I think it would be helpful just how my brain approached it. Can I just read the list of stuff I've done?
Oh, yeah.
So I took a sabbatical from my company. And Joe said, just read some of the things you've been doing. So you guys are gonna be dizzy. I didn't do all of these every day, but I did a lot of this stuff. So again, took a break from the business, and then just focused on cancer. You said, according to Jeff Hayes, when you have a terminal disease, what's the saying you say about health? A man that's healthy has 1,000 goals.
Yeah. He who does not has only one.
Say it again.
He or she who has their health has 1,000 dreams. He or she who has 1,000 dreams. He or she that does not has only one, which is to get it all back, to get their health back. Because you lose your health, you lose everything.
So think about that as you hear the list. Partial list of items that I've done the last 112 days. Vern Harnish, daily calls at the beginning. He's the chairman of the board of the Reardon Clinic in Kansas. Super high dose vitamin C infusions every day, high dose curcumin, 2 sweat lodge sessions, 20 hot saunas. I lean heavily on guidance from my wife, Melissa, who's an absolute rock, and Morgan, my right hand at work. Lean heavily on very close friends who dropped everything to help. I was open to love and support in a way that I've never been before. Like, just being open to people being so loving and giving was unbelievable. EBOO, which is a blood filtering and ozone therapy for your entire blood supply. Did this 10 times. Weekly Catholic church services, every other week confession. I read 5 books on how to cure cancer without chemotherapy. Spoke to 1 witch doctor. Jeff Smith, thank you for that, reconnecting us. Jeff Smith had 1% chance of living 30 days. That was 5 years ago.
He had stage 4 lung cancer, and then he came and stayed with me, and he's, cancer-free. And I got him a link so he could watch us. He's watching us right now.
Yep. Hey, Jeff, thank you, brother. Countless difficult conversations with well-meaning friends and family. about when are you starting chemotherapy. 4 members of my immediate family, not 1, 4, died right after getting chemotherapy. I'm terrified of chemotherapy. Mark Tarbell, daily delivery of food while I was at the clinic in Phoenix the last 10 weeks. Thank you, Mark. Patrick and Lori Gentempo praying for me. Hillary Hamilton, part of Joe Dispenza's group, praying for me many times. All the resources of Entrepreneurs Organization, all the resources of YPO, Super Secret Weapon, AI, Josh Pelliser from Moonshot Labs, and Peter.
Josh is standing in the back, and Peter's in the back, yep. They fed everything into AI and got as much research as they could about every possible solution to this.
Hyperthermia, heating your body to 108 degrees. I did that 8 times. Let's see, Dr. Janice Johnston, who's Dave Berg's wife, and Dave Berg. I've been staying at his house while in Phoenix. Unbelievable guy. He owns Redirect Health. If you're not using their health plans, you're crazy. They've been navigating all the health needs that I've had. Thank you, Dave. And his wife's been immense. I knew nothing about the medical system. Countless conversations with stage 4 deathbed survivors. Countless conversations with naturopaths. Doing water experiments. I don't know if you saw, but you write on a glass of water, love, health, healing, and the water changes crystalline form. So I went to bed every night writing words of affirmation on my body, because I'm 80% water, and so are you. By the way, just made me think of something. When the doctor said I had a 2% chance of living 2 years, I looked him in the eye with a big smile on my face. Everybody in this room is in the 1% club. And I'm thinking, holy shit, I got 200% better chance of my life. That is awesome. Let me just finish reading this. A Rife frequency machine. I slept with it every night when I was home. Special homeopathic potions. I hired an astrologer. Did a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. Being open.
You probably never would have done any of this stuff prior to that.
None of it. I'm only halfway through. My wife has this powerful rosary group. They prayed for me every day. They were amazing women. Being open to the divine and the miraculous, just sitting here is divine and miraculous, if you think about it. This whole thing has been divinely orchestrated. Crazy, heavy weightlifting routines with Tom Incledon, and he's like, if you're not building muscle cells, you're building cancer cells. Which one would you choose? So let me just go forward on this. This is me, a 90-day transformation. I lost 55 of these guys. Look at that. That's my 60th birthday, October 26, 1963, I was born. And that was me with Barrett Ursick. Can you see, we can see it down here. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna show you one last slide, and then you could ask me questions. This really influenced me. Michael J. Fox has been alive with a terminal disease for a long time. You must become an expert in your diagnosis. It is your responsibility to know more about your disease than the medical professionals treating you. It's shocking to me. I'm sitting asking my oncologist questions, and I'm saying, dude, how the hell do you not know the answer to that question? That's a really basic question. And all they know is their little narrow thing. It's just shocking to me. Let me just finish, and then you could ask questions. Brian Cooper, a cancer coach, leveraging all the resources of the Gathering of Titans group that I first led as chairman in 2004, an amazing group of entrepreneurs. Phil Tyrone and his prayer warriors, immense medical support from Cherie. Thank you, Cherie, you've done a lot for me. Special mineral water, I only drank this mineral water the whole time. 6 different radiologist appointments. The last 2, by the way, told me that you have stage 4 and you're a goner, basically, is what they told me. That was only in the last month. I spoke to 9 different pancreatic cancer surgeons and got 9 different opinions. Not one of them said, I don't think you need surgery, sir. Meaning at some point they want to do it. I was willing to speak to anyone that my intuition said to speak to. Ionic foot baths, 3 different exorcisms, believe it or not. Coaching with a shaman. Jennifer Hoodie, weekly healing sessions. She's an angel, thank you, Jennifer. I was read my last rites twice. I did an anointing of the sick twice, once with the world-famous Bishop Strickland, who was recently fired by the Pope 2 weeks ago. I had nothing to do with that. Totally embrace the terrain theory of medicine. If you change the terrain, you change the disease. I don't think the cancer knows who the hell it took over. Totally embrace that. Water fasting, 48 hours at a time. Intermittent fasting, 9 weeks at Tom Incledon's Cosenta here in Phoenix. Thank you, Joe, for that. Met 2 times with Romanian healing monks. Did 5 separate healing sessions with Joe Dispenza's group. Countless vitamins. You know, there's 2 more pages. I'm not even going to read anymore. But the one last comment is, so last week I had to get an operation to put in a new liver stent. And I was a lot of pressure because I would be on your stage. They took 6 biopsies, and all 6 came back benign last week. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
But thank you. Thank you. But here's the biggest comment of all. Jeff Smith, if you're watching, he told me, he goes, when you do all this crap and you're exhausted from it and you're only going home on the weekends to see your family, people are going to say, it was probably a misdiagnosis. And that's what I'm starting to hear.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this video, and I want to let you know that I have a new book that's come out, and if you'd like to get it absolutely free, there's a link below in the description, or you can wait till the end of this video, or you can simply go to joesfreebook.com and you can get a copy there.
So this doesn't mean anything, I just burn it.
Well, here's the thing, too. If you would have taken their advice and all the standard of care, which, look, I'm not a doctor. I don't know enough of the intricacies. Both my parents died of cancer. My mother of ovarian cancer when I was 4. My father when he was 73, lung cancer. I was his caretaker for the last year of his life. I've been around a lot. I've lost quite a few friends to cancer. Standard of care. So much of the medical industry now, the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, it's just become so co-opted and so toxic and so fucked up. And it's sickening. They kill people. And they save people's lives too, but when I say there's certain doctors that do, but the system has become so money-focused and so, it's just disgusting to me. I mean, like, to the point where I'm, you know, you can tell I'm angered by it. But the human spirit, and there are solutions out there, and you know, and I think you have been doing an incredible job of pursuing them and taking an entrepreneurial approach and not letting yourself, you know, not just giving the Michael J. Fox quote, you must become an expert in your diagnosis. It is your responsibility to know more about your disease than the medical professionals treating you, because it's your life. And a lot of people just hand it over.
On the front of Joe's book, Winners Find Ways. And I got to share something with you. When I did Strategic Coach in the 90s, I remember Sean Phillips was in my class. We merged classes a couple of times. But I learned something from Dan, and it's on my family placemat that we created, my family and I, when my kid was first born. It sits on my dinner table. Many of you in the room have had dinner at my house. And it's the 4 C's formula. Commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. And I sat down with my family. I said, so you've heard the 4 C's formula your whole life. So right now, Daddy's going to commit with you that we're going to beat cancer. And I was terrified, guys. I woke up every night for the first 3 weeks in a pool of sweat. I was terrified of dying. It was the most vulnerable I've ever been in my life. I didn't know where money was going to come from. We went through a really, really rough time business-wise because we overinvested in our private equity investments, and our funds went down, and it was like cash was tough. This could not have come at a worse time. But we made the commitment, and then what do you have to do? Next word is courage. Well, you have a lot of fear, so how do you overcome fear? Courage. Then you start building some capabilities. I learned more about pancreatic cancer than at least curing it than any doctor I met. And then you start getting confidence. And literally, I'm not exaggerating at all, I was gonna call Joe yesterday morning and say I can't come, because when they did the operation Tuesday of last week, I got pancreatitis. and it is horrific. And I literally, yesterday morning, was not gonna come. I changed my flight from 6 a.m. to 10. And then I woke up this morning, and all the pressure Joe put on me to be cured on the stage, it like miraculously went away. So
Well, there you go.
Thank you, Dan, for that 26 years ago, whatever you taught me that, because that has just been part of the DNA of my family.
Yeah, it's amazing how we oftentimes don't realize the things that we spend our life learning. You know, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I wasted so much time. I never got anything out of that. It all ties together. Every freaking thing we do, there's a reason and there's a meaning from it, and you can derive value from it or you can choose to ignore it. But, you know, the atmospheric conditions of your life create what you create. And you're going through a storm right now, and there's been some incredible things that have come out of it. And I have 100% belief that if you have 100% belief that you can create whatever you want out of this. You know, when I first had dinner with Gabor Mate in 2015, he said this really interesting comment to me. So Gabor knew about me being my childhood and about, you know, some of the stuff that happened to me. And we're just in this restaurant in Vancouver, and we're just sitting there talking. And this is the first time I met him in person. We had spoken over the phone, but this is in 2015. And he's a, you know, small, sort of, you know, he's not a big guy. And he's a, you know, Hungarian doctor in his 70s. And we're just talking in this busy restaurant, table for two of us surrounded by people. And he says, you know, I know the cause of cancer. And then he continues to talk. I'm like, hold on, back up. You just said you know the cause of cancer. He's like, yeah. I go, all cancer? Children with cancer, animals with bone cancer? He's like, yeah, all cancer. I'm like, okay, what's the cause of cancer? And he's like, suppression, repression. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, well, if I started pouring water on your head right now and yelling at you, I could change the physiology of your whole body. And he goes, so, you know, everything would change. He goes, so if I started pouring water on your head and yelling at you right now, what would happen? I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, your face would get flush, your adrenaline would surge, your heart rate would go up, all the cells in your body would change. And he goes, so if I did start pouring water on your head and yelling at you right now, what are some of the things that you could do? I go, he's like, how would you react if I started pouring water on your head and yelling at you? And so I'm sitting there thinking about this, and I go, well, I could, you know, walk away. He goes, yeah, you could run away. And he goes, what else could you do? I said, tell you to fuck off. He said, yeah, you could fight back. And he goes, what else could you do? And I'm sitting there thinking, what are my options? I already went through those two. I go, I guess sit here while you pour water on my head and yell at me. And he goes, well, no, you could ask for help. And right at that moment, I was like, wow, I think I just heard something pretty profound. And he said, so what happens when you're in a situation, usually as a child, where you can't run away, you can't fight back, you can't ask for help, there's two ways that humans deal with it. They either develop an addiction as a coping mechanism, or they develop an autoimmune condition or something like cancer. And he goes, I learned that a lot before I wrote the book, When the Body Says No. And so I shared that with you, and I believe there's something. Now, if I believe cancer and many diseases, dis-ease, I don't think the body's built to have diseases. There's genetic things, there's a lot of things, of course. There are certain things, though, that people say you can't do anything about. This would be one of them. You know, you got a 2% chance. Well, what does that mean? And what is the cause? And so I think it's either mental or physical toxins. And sometimes it's trauma. And when you're a kid and you can't run away, you can't fight back, you can't ask for help when you were 13 years old, and probably way before then, you already had this built-in trauma. So you had atmospheric conditions. But as we become an adult, we actually can ask for help. But the thing for me is I never even realized it was so conditioned to me that, oh, that was even an option. I'm in a busy restaurant surrounded by people, and it never even entered my consciousness that I could ask someone, hey, there's someone right here yelling at me, please, someone help me. I just, you know, and I realized when I was an addict And when I had so much physical pain in my body and all kinds of stuff, my mother, you know, women that are abused and molested, there's been some studies that they have six times increase of getting cancer. My mother became a nun. She left the convent because she had gotten ill. I don't know what happened to her. But my father, he lost the love of his life. You know, you look at Louise Hay's published, you know, Hay House, you know, grief. Lungs have a lot to do with grief. Why did my father get lung cancer? Well, he smoked, but why did he smoke? You know, there's a lot of stuff. So I believe that, you know, not only can you be completely cured from this, I believe you can help a lot of people too, which is why I wanted you to come here and tell this story, because you have been taking on, I mean, going through this journey with you, you reached out to people and you were very hesitant to going to your group, Gathering of Titans, which you created, and all this, and the outpouring of love is, and no matter what happens, you have opened yourself up in ways that you've never done before in your life. You've transformed your health. You have connections that never would have happened. So in a lot of ways, I look at this as a gift for you.
You're 100% right. And that is his name, Gabor. That changed my life. I spent about 3 or 4 weeks praying and forgiving my mom for what she did. And just getting that release, I think, was the start of the healing. One other thing I want to share with you, I don't know if you could see this. This is a big, thick, fat book, and it's called Pronoia. Most of us go through life, many of us, paranoid. The universe is conspiring behind my back to hurt me. Pronoia is the universe is conspiring behind my back to bring blessings to me. And I fully embrace that at every interaction, including this one, including far more open. I look people in the eye. I don't use technology as much. It's completely changed how I interact with my kids and my wife most of the time. At the beginning, we had so many arguments about chemotherapy. And you know, I have to share this very personal story that happened to me. And honey, I apologize, but I came home to the house 5 weeks ago or so, and my in-laws were there. And my father-in-law is remarried to his new wife. They got married about 15 years ago. There was a lot of tension, and I sat down with them, and I said, you know, I don't like the tension in the house. The kids are asleep. What the hell's going on? And my father-in-law says, I just don't understand you. Why don't you start the damn chemotherapy? Why don't you listen to your doctor? And I'm like, because once they start with pancreatic cancer, it's kind of like they know when you're going to die. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, at least it'll give you a few more extra months of life. It's like I got my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my wife in the room, away from the kids because they were in bed. And I said, can I just talk to you guys? Because this is really bothering the hell out of me. Dad, what should I do? Listen to your damn doctor. I'm 78 years old, and I got here because I listened to my doctor. Okay. Mom, what should I do? You should listen to your doctor. Honey, what should I do? Rick, listen to the doctor. Start the chemotherapy. Okay. Mom, can I ask you a couple of questions? Sure. Your first husband, what did he die from? What did he die from? Pancreatic cancer. Oh. How long after he started the chemotherapy did he die? 5 months. So I'm 2.5 months in. I'm doing pretty damn good. So leave me the hell alone, Mom, please. And they literally had this awakening. They didn't even realize what was coming out of their mouth. We were so programmed by the white coats. Her first husband got the chemo, listened to the doctors, was dead in 4 months and 3 weeks. And yet she's saying, listen to. So I don't think we realize how much we're controlled by this multi-trillion-dollar industry that controls every aspect. Jeff Hayes and I were talking, and he says, you know, when the doctor tells you you have 2 months or 2 years or 2% or whatever the hell they tell you, that is a witch doctor hex on you. And there's something called the Mancuson effect, in which people were mistakenly told that they had 6 months to live. And guess what happened? Their body starts breaking down and they die on the 6 months of the day. Mm-hmm. And so I just didn't want to buy into any of that crap. Like, I don't care what your opinion is. So anyway, I think it's really powerful that we don't buy into that multi-trillion-dollar industry. One other stat I want to share with you, and Rand Stagen was with me when the doctor told me this. Doctor says, now I had inoperable pancreatic cancer. This is all pancreatic cancer. He said 15% of people diagnosed with pancreatic cancer are dead within 3 years. 15%. By the way, it's the champion. It's ahead of glioblastoma if you look at a list on Google, which I wish I never looked at. He said, but only 7.5%, I'm sorry, so 15% of people, I said that wrong, let me just back up a step. 15% of people that are diagnosed with pancreatic cancer are misdiagnosed. 15%, hold that number in your head. Only 7.5% survive 3 years. I go, can you repeat that? He goes, yeah, because even the misdiagnosed ones die too because of the therapy. Isn't that weird? So the Mancuson effect is really, really powerful.
Yeah, you know, and here's the thing too, like how many of you have sat with someone while they died or were a caretaker and while they were going through the process? Yeah, we live in a culture that hides death and has a really strange sort of relationship with it. And unless you're in the medical field, most people, unless they witness an accident or something, or a loved one, they rarely, you know, they rarely see death. And I'm not saying I'm at all, you know, comfortable with it. I mean, you take Cherie, you take many of the doctors that are here in the room, they've been around a lot of people that have, while they're passing. And I think, you know, I was at the hospital when Sean Stevenson died. He was my best friend with his wife and Patty and Sheila and a couple of other friends. And, you know, I've thought about that a lot. And Sean's parents, Gloria and Greg, are still very dear friends of mine. And it was right before the pandemic. And you know, I think Sean, in a lot of ways, and this will sound cuckoo to many people, I think he kind of knew that he didn't want to be around in the world what was happening what was about to happen with the pandemic. And so I don't view dying per se as, you know, and again, these are my own beliefs. And what does a belief mean? It means you're just not sure. So I'm not sure. So I think there's a way to interact with death and celebrate it, and there's transitions that just happen, and we're all going to die. I think so many people spend more time being fearful and concerned about death than, you know, living their life. And so life is the only thing worth living for is a song lyric that I heard years ago. It's some crazy punk band. I can't remember the name of the band. But I remember hearing that, like, life is the only thing worth living for. So what do you do with your life while you're living it? What does that even mean? And how do you transcend suffering? How do you make sense of suffering? And what I've learned from, you know, recovery is that, you know, there are many times when I've wanted to die because I just was not at all okay with life the way it was just so painful. And with death, there is a time where I think, you know, we can go into it in a much different place. I just don't think that time is here for you right now. And no matter what happens, I think this experience you're going to be able to dance with it in a much different way. And if you do listen to use the term you just said, the white coats, the medical industry has become a death machine. If COVID has taught us anything, they're not doing this shit for your safety. They have been totally, the virus is the mind virus, the biggest virus. You know, I'll talk later today to RFK, maybe, about this topic, but, you know, America had the highest deaths of COVID of any country. You know, 2,000 per million, I think, approximately. And the medical industry, you talk to those 9 doctors, and a lot of them are probably good people, and they probably have helped, and they've probably saved lives, and they're also there to cut. They're also there to operate. They're also there to give chemo.
This has set the stage for my thinking. 2 years ago, I'll call him Dr. Phil, was my high blood pressure doctor in Dallas. And I came to his office one day for my monthly checkup, and he was crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, I'm just really, really, really frustrated. I've taken 404 of the worst patients. 1 out of 2 of us in the audience will get cancer, according to stats. I just want to share a few more things with you. And notice we're running out of time, but one is, I got a lot of life insurance, and I got a lot of term insurance. What's weird is, and I didn't know about this, I had no idea. When you get a terminal diagnosis, if you have an ADR, I think it's called, you guys in the insurance industry know, my agent called the insurance company, and they send you a check for 250 grand for end of life expenses. So I got 2 of those checks immediately out of left field. And it said they only give the check if they know you'll be dead in a year. So that's pretty cool. On a term policy. Like, it's not weird? Like,
Yeah, that's
free money, so get those. The second thing, I just want to read the last page of things that I did. Countless infusions of all kinds, resveratrol, alpha-lipoic acid, et cetera. EWAT training daily, I've done it every day. I didn't do it today, but it's exercise with oxygen. Red light therapy, a Tesla multi-wave oscillator machine. I don't even know what the hell it is. A friend of mine put it in my office. I did it like 30 times. I sleep on a grounding mat, use an electric mat, magnetic mat, pulse therapy, bariatric oxygen, hydrogen therapy, Mediterranean ketogenic diet, fenbendazole, menbendazole, ivermectin, high-dose ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, 6 different compound prescription drugs, daily coffee enemas. Did that about 30 times. That sucks.
Depends on the music, though.
Tim Larkin told me about it, so I made him do the first one. 24 visits to an Eastern medicine doctor, received acupuncture 16 times, 9 different mushroom extracts, I took them daily. Let's see, meeting with a healing nun, Sister Dulce Maria, several times a week. This sounds crazy, way more than several. I would hug a tree and breathe tree bark. Read about that one, it's pretty crazy. Long nature walks, juice cleanses, adoration sessions, cancer-killing herbs, grounding with the earth by walking on the ground, sleeping on a grounding mat, and many, many more. So that's the end of the list for that.
Yeah. It seems like the things that most of this audience will do, but just not in such a condensed period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta be a little crazy, pronoia, right? But I felt like I was divinely led. I had to share a divinely orchestrated story, which could have been the answer. I'm not 100% sure. So I'm at my lowest point, just met with the radiologist. They said it's spreading to your liver, the tumors surrounding veins and nerves, start getting your affairs in order. My wife was on the phone, I was on the phone, and I was with a friend of mine, RP is his name. And that morning, it was a Saturday morning about 4 weeks ago, I think, I got thousands of requests, talk to my friend, you gave me people to talk to, and for some reason I woke up and I had this guy, John Davis, on my mind. I woke up that morning, I was in a lot of pain. I've been in a lot of pain this whole time, except today, which is ironic. And I called this guy, John Davis. Now, John Davis, I got his number because my wife said there's too many people trying to get Rick's attention. We're gonna have visiting hours from 5 to 8 on Saturdays. So she opened up the home on Saturdays. And this guy, Steve Durham, walks in my house 6 weeks ago and says, call John Davis. So I hadn't seen Steve in 30 years. Thank you, Steve. So I wake up this Saturday, 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I call John Davis. He picks up the phone, he goes, this is weird. I go, what's weird? He goes, I'm on the board at TCU, and I haven't been home on a Saturday in 15 years. And he happened to pick up the phone on a Saturday morning. So I go, I was told by Steve Durham, I have to see you. He goes, yep, come over today at 4 o'clock. So me, RP, and Jim Shields, many of you know Jim Shields, who was visiting me for the day from Florida before he went to Costa Rica, I go, get in the car with me. On the way to John Davis's house, we're on the phone with the radiologist who said there's no hope. I'm setting the stage. I am bawling like a baby. I really respect this radiologist. There's no hope. We get to John Davis's house. I don't know who the hell he is. Knock on the door. No one comes for 15 minutes. And the two guys I'm with are like, what are we doing here? We finally answers the door. This tall, 75-ish-year-old, very sophisticated-looking guy answers the door. He sits down. He goes, I guess you want to know about my cancer. I'm like, I guess. Steve Dorm sent me. So 4 of us are in this beautiful living room, and he says, in 2013, I got advanced stage 4 brain cancer. They took the top of my head off. They sucked the tumors out to put the top of my head on. I went through all their treatment. I think it was chemo and radiation. And they sent me home to die. 2017, the same thing happens. They take the top of my head off. They suck the tumors out. They put the top of my head back on. He goes, it was a miserable existence. 2019, it comes back again. So I start planning my funeral. He had a book of his funeral plans. He had like a month to live. A neighbor knocks on his door and says, they're doing some really cool stuff in Vienna in which they have a treatment which chokes off the veins that feed tumors. You should try it. He said, I lost my mind on the guy. Just think about divine intervention here. And then the neighbor says, I'll pay for it. So as a last-ditch effort, I go to Vienna. I go to this experimental treatment. I come back a week later, 1 week, and I go to UT Southwestern, and they said, holy cow, the cancer's gone. By the way, if you read the book Radical Remission and you look at the website, there's 7,000 stories of people that were stage 4 on their deathbed that went into full remission, and all the stories have one thing in common. The doctors never asked, what'd you do? And he had the same experience. Like, what'd you do? I went to Vienna and they cured me in a week. They're like, nah, 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 nah. So I'm sitting in this guy's living room, he's telling this story, and he says, here's the biggest problem, is I don't know how to communicate with the doctor. He's in Vienna, he's from Iran, he only speaks Farsi. I'm sitting there, and my friend's next to me, his name's RP, he's from Iran. He grabs the guy's phone, and the guy's like, you can't call him now, it's midnight in Austria. He dials it anyway. Next thing you know, they're in a conversation in Farsi in front of me. I'm like, holy shit. And he goes, oh, he's looking at me, he's talking in Farsi, he says, he can't see you for a year, he's booked solid for a year. And then he says, there's an opening next week? Next week? And he says to me, Rick, I don't want you to do anything but heal, I'm paying for everything. I'm like, what do you mean you're paying for everything? 2 days later, he had paid for the plane flights, the treatment, the hotel, the food, got us a chauffeur, an organic chef, and I'm bawling like a baby. I leave the house, and I'm on the front lawn going, this is just too bizarre, all this. So anyway, I went to Austria, did this experimental treatment. I don't know. That's the biggest problem with all this. What did it? From beginning to end, 92 different protocols. I'm not sure what did it, but I'm happy as hell that the tumors are benign. That's all I can say.
Well, here's the thing. So I would say that several things. One, you are more powerful than you could even possibly imagine if you open yourself up for it. Secondly, love and care and concern from people that you wouldn't even know is always there. Just like when the sun is out and it's daytime, the sun is always there. Sometimes there's clouds in the way. Sometimes there's storms, but love is always there. It's removing the clouds that stand in the way. You know, recovery was always there for me when I was an addict, but I put up a lot of clouds because the atmospheric conditions were very difficult. Be careful who you trust and who you listen to. The most expensive information in the world is bad information. The most deadly information in the world is bad information. So there's good information and there's bad information. Be willing to pay for good information. Be willing to fly to other countries. Be open, because there's a lot of stuff where you're using blind faith, but it's really not all that blind. A lot of this is intuition. And, you know, I write about this in the, most people don't understand why, but the first chapter of my book of my newest book, What's in It for Them, is Be a Pain Detective. pain is a messenger. Whenever there's anything showing up, like a disease or a condition or a behavior, and it's hurting you or it could kill you, it is trying to communicate to you. And so being able to, how many people in the room have had cancer and no longer do? Raise your hands. Look around. There's a few, quite a few. Yeah. Yep. So you did things. You're resourceful. So be a resourceful person. But more than that, I've seen you be more open because you're a smart-ass, crazy fucking dude. And, you know, if we go back the last 2.5 decades that I've known you, I mean, the most twisted sort of jokes. I mean, everything under the sun. And this has completely changed you as a human. I mean, you've always been a cool, funny guy, right? I mean, you care about people. You're a very super smart business guy, which we're going to have a separate discussion about the business stuff later. But the thing is, you've totally opened yourself up, and you're playing full out, and here you are. So I look forward to, depending on what you do and what you believe, having the updated conversation next year at this event.
Amen, brother.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Rick Sapio, everyone.
Okay, I hope you found that video awesome and useful. So if you want to get a free copy of my book, I want you to click here. And if you want to watch some more videos that'll be useful and awesome, click here. Go ahead. They're over here. Do it now. Come on. Thank you. Watch them.